The day I got my doctorate, my family didn't show up. Not one of them. I stood there in a cap and gown, surrounded by strangers celebrating with their families, while my phone stayed silent. So I called my mom. She answered, and the first thing she said was, "We already ate." Not congratulations. Not we're proud of you. Nothing. They were at my brother's barbecue, celebrating him. That's when something in me went quiet. Not angry. Not loud. Just done. Because, in that moment, I realized something. If they didn't show up for me at my highest, they didn't deserve access to what came next. The auditorium was packed. Rows of graduates in identical caps and gowns. Families filling the seats behind us. Cameras flashing. Laughter echoing across the room. It should have felt like a celebration. And for everyone else that did. To my left, someone waved at their parents. To my right, a girl wiped tears as her name was called, her family cheering louder than anyone else. I smiled, clapped when I was supposed to, nodded when people looked my way. But every few seconds, my eyes went back to the same place. 3 empty seats. Reserved. For them. My name was called. I walked across the stage, shook hands, accepted the diploma I had spent years working toward. And for a moment, I let myself feel it. The pride, the relief, the quiet realization that I had actually done it. Then I stepped off the stage. And there was no one there. No hug. No voice calling my name. Just noise that didn't belong to me. After the ceremony, I stood outside with everyone else. Groups forming. Photos being taken. Families celebrating. I pulled out my phone. Called my mom. She answered on the second ring. "We already ate," she said. No hello. No question. "They're at your brother's barbecue," I replied quietly. "Oh," she said. "Well, we thought you'd understand." In the background, I could hear laughter. Music. Voices I recognized. My dad came on next. "Don't make this bigger than it is," he said. I stood there listening. Then I ended the call. And in that moment, something changed. It wasn't just that day. It never was. That moment at graduation, it just made everything else impossible to ignore. Growing up, my brother was always the center of attention. Not because he tried, but because everything he did somehow mattered more. He got praised for showing up. I got questioned for not doing enough. When he graduated college, my parents threw a party. Not just a dinner. A full weekend. Family invited. Decorations. Speeches. When I started my doctorate, my mom said, "That's nice, but make sure it leads somewhere practical." When he talked about his barbecue, it was building something. When I talked about research, it was still studying. It was subtle at first. Small differences. Small comments. Easy to ignore if you wanted to. So I did. For years, I told myself it didn't matter. That I didn't need validation. That I was doing this for me. But the truth? I wanted them to see it. To understand what it took. The nights. The pressure. The sacrifices. Not just the title at the end, but everything behind it. And every time I thought they might finally get it, they didn't. They smiled. Nodded. Changed the subject. And went back to celebrating him. So I worked harder. Not smarter. Not healthier. Just harder. Thinking maybe one day, it would be enough. That they'd look at me the way they looked at him. Proud. Certain. Present. But standing there after graduation, listening to laughter from a barbecue I wasn't invited to, I realized something. It wasn't that I hadn't done enough. It was that nothing I did was ever going to be enough for them. I didn't go to the barbecue. I didn't text back. I didn't explain how I felt. I just stopped. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just quietly. That night, I packed my graduation gown into a box. Folded it carefully. Closed the lid. And with it, something else closed too. The part of me that kept waiting for them to notice. The next morning, I made a decision. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. If they didn't see me, I would stop standing where they were looking. I accepted a position I had been hesitating on for months. Different city. Different environment. The kind of opportunity one used to wonder if I deserved. This time, I didn't question it. I just said yes. No announcement. No family call. No explanation. I moved 2 weeks later. New apartment. New routine. New version of my life that didn't include waiting for approval. At first, it felt strange. Too quiet. Too easy. No comments. No comparisons. No subtle reminders of where I fell short. Just space. And in that space, I started to change. Not overnight, but steadily. I focused on my work, not to prove anything, not to impress anyone, just to build something real, something mine. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and slowly the weight I didn't realize I was carrying started to lift. I stopped checking my phone for messages that never came, stopped replaying conversations in my head, stopped trying to rewrite moments that had already happened. For the first time in years, I felt present, not performing, not competing, just existing. And in that quiet, I built something stronger than validation. I built a life that didn't depend on it. And for the first time, it was enough. At first, nothing dramatic happened. No sudden breakthrough. No big moment where everything changed overnight. Just progress. The kind that builds quietly, day by day. I showed up, did the work, learned more than I talked. And slowly, people started noticing. Not in the way I was used to. No comparisons. No conditions. Just recognition. Simple. Direct. Earned. My ideas were taken seriously. My work wasn't questioned. It was valued. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to explain why I deserved to be there. I just did. Months passed. Then opportunities started opening. Projects I would have been overlooked for before. Rooms I was never invited into. Now I was in them. Not because of luck. Not because of anyone else. Because I had built something that spoke for itself. One afternoon, I was asked to present my work to a group I used to think was out of reach. I stood there calm, clear, certain, not trying to prove anything, just sharing what I knew. Afterward, someone pulled me aside. "We'd like to move forward with you," they said. Just like that. No hesitation. No doubt. I walked out of that building and paused for a moment. Not because I needed to process it, but because I didn't. It made sense. For the first time, success didn't feel surprising. It felt aligned. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my contacts, stopped at their names, then locked the screen. Because they didn't know. They hadn't asked. And honestly, they hadn't earned a front row seat to this version of me. The one they never showed up for. The one I built without them. I didn't plan on seeing them again so soon. But life has a way of closing circles you didn't ask for. It happened 3 months later. A family gathering. Small. Casual. Something I almost didn't go to. But I did. Not for them. For me. When I walked in, the room didn't change right away. People kept talking, laughing, moving around like nothing had shifted. Then someone noticed me. And everything slowed. My mom turned first. Then my dad. Then my brother. The same faces. The same people who didn't show up that day. But this time, they were looking at me differently. Not with certainty. Not with quiet judgment. With something else. Curiosity. Maybe even confusion. "You're here," my mom said, like it surprised her. "I am," I replied. Simple. No edge. No emotion. Just fact. My brother stepped forward. "We haven't heard from you." "I've been busy," I said. He nodded, like he didn't know what else to say. For a moment, no one filled the silence. Then someone asked about my work. A normal question. But this time, I answered. Not in detail. Not to impress. Just enough. And I watched it happen. The shift. Subtle. But real. The way they listened. The way they didn't interrupt. The way they didn't compare. For the first time, I wasn't being measured. I was being seen. My dad spoke next. "You should have told us," he said. I looked at him. Steady. Calm. "I did," I said. "You just didn't show up." Silence again. But this time, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was honest. And in that moment, they finally saw me. But by then, I wasn't waiting for them anymore. I didn't stay long after that. There was nothing left to prove, nothing left to explain. As I grabbed my coat, my mom followed me to the door. "Can we talk?" she asked. Her voice was softer now. Careful. I paused. Not because I needed to think, but because I wanted to be clear. "We are talking," I said. She shook her head slightly. "I mean, really talk." I understood what she meant. Fix it. Rebuild it. Go back. I met her eyes. "We can talk," I said. "But not the way we used to." She didn't answer. My dad stood behind her. Quiet. My brother stayed in the background. For once, no one interrupted. No one redirected. And that said everything. I stepped outside. The air felt different. Lighter. Like something I had been carrying for years was finally gone. They missed one day. One moment. But what they really lost was every version of me that came after it.